Welcome back, ladies and gentlemen, to episode 2 of In the 11. Before we get into the content of today's episode, into the football part of it, I just want to say really quickly how appreciative I am and grateful I really am for all the people who tuned in and listened to episode 1 or watched episode 1. It really does mean the world to me that you guys took the time out of your day to listen to a little bit about me, a little bit about my story, and some of you even shared it with other people, and that really means, I can't express to you how much that means to me, and that was really cool for me to see, so thank you. I also received a lot of messages, a lot of texts and Instagram messages about my episode and what they thought of it, and I encourage you to continue to do that. Like I said, that meant so much to me that so many people did that. And for those of you who are new here and this is your first time tuning in, I would definitely encourage you to go back and listen to episode 1. And just that episode sort of sets the table for this episode and as we continue to go along in the story. I also just want to touch upon one thing that I noticed from a couple people who reached out to me, and I got a couple messages and they were sort of along the lines of people saying, hey, this is a really cool idea that you've decided to do, and I'm definitely inspired by it. I sort of have some sort of similar idea or creative pursuit that I am thinking about doing, and I kind of want that same motivation or that same last little push to be able to go and do it. And I just want to talk about something in relation to this podcast, but a lot of other decisions that I've made in my life as well, that this isn't necessarily something that I just decided one day and had the confidence to go out and do it. There's definitely a lot of fear that I have associated with this, and it probably hindered me from starting it right away when I wanted to. I'm concerned if people are going to resonate with my story, if people are going to be interested to listen to my story for this amount of time or this many episodes. Am I going to be able to remain entertaining to people? What are people going to think? And I think one of the things that I'm somewhat proud of myself that I've been able to change my mindset a little bit is I've sort of tried to create I guess you could call it like an inverse relationship with fear, right? So, for example, this podcast, it is something that initially when I thought about, I had hesitation and there were drawbacks to it. And I was nervous about doing something like this because it's putting yourself out there and it's being vulnerable. But I think what I was able to see was that, well, there's also an alternative to that fear that I'm associating in my head, that this could be a positive thing, that people could resonate with this, that people could enjoy my story and want to hear more of it, and I could help people out there. So this isn't something that I just have developed recently. It's taken me years to be able to kind of look at fear from this specific lens. And I think what you'll find is most of the decisions that you make in your life that turn out to be the big decisions where you look back and you're so grateful that you made them, oftentimes those are things that when you first are faced with them, you do have apprehension and there is hesitation. And that's something that I think I would encourage you to look at the other side of the decision, right? Is there a possibility that this fear that you have, this apprehension towards a decision that you're trying to make, is because you know that there's a very realistic possibility that could go well, but you're sort of just stuck in this mode of comfortability, and pursuing this new decision forces you to be uncomfortable, right? I'll give you a different example. The first time that I transferred schools, it was for an opportunity for me to go and play soccer again, which is what I love to do. And I knew that vision, although I didn't know exactly what it looked like yet, was something that could be incredibly positive and something that could make me really happy. However, transferring schools is a difficult process. It involves you leaving what's comfortable, leaving what you know, to go and pursue something that's unknown. So what I would encourage you to do is maybe try and evaluate and look at the decisions that you make more, and try and, like I said, almost reverse engineer the fear that you have when you are initially faced with a big decision. I've sort of gotten to the point in my life where I almost look at that fear or that nervousness about doing something big as the sign that I need to go and do it. And it's because of that first time when I took the leap, transferring schools, and then I look back on it and I was like, wow, that was one of the best decisions that I could have made for myself. So then the next time I'm faced with a similar life-altering thing, I had that same playback in my head of, okay, I'm having this similar feeling to the feeling I felt when I first wanted to transfer schools, so maybe I need to pursue this. Going and moving to a different country and living in Germany. The moment that at first was really on the table, your sort of primal instinctual reaction to it is almost to run away from it, because you're so nervous about that's way far out of your comfort zone, way far out of anything that you've ever done. And it hasn't been easy, like I said, and it definitely challenges me and requires me to push myself, but I start to look at decisions like that where I know on the other side of that decision there may be something great. I sort of start to challenge myself a bit more and really try and maybe push myself out of my comfort zone as much as I can. So I share this with you because if you're a person who right now is sitting on an idea, and it can be anything. It can be something similar to this, where you want to start a YouTube channel, you want to start a podcast, you want to do something creative, or you just want to do something new that you feel apprehensive about and you feel nervous to even try. Use me as the excuse to start, to take step one, because I promise once you take step one, the following steps become so much easier, and once you do it once, like I said, it's going to make it a little bit easier the next time you're faced with something that your initial gut reaction is to sort of flight, if you're in the fight or flight response. So that being said, I'd love to take you guys along for what is my story after I graduated college and kind of talk to you about my soccer career a little bit. And I'm going to do this in reverse kind of chronological order for a couple reasons. One of which being, I'm excited to tell you guys about my college career, not necessarily because it was a storybook, picture perfect college career, but because I think if I share with you sort of how far I've come and where I am right now, it may add a little bit more value to what it took for me to get here when I tell you what it took for me to get here. When I explain to you all the transfers and all the heartbreak that I went through to try and pursue being able to play soccer at the collegiate level, I think to have already in your mind where I am right now may go to show a little bit that where I am right now, I wasn't really supposed to be here based on my college story. So I'll kind of take you through what happened after December of 2017. So I was at a school called Chestnut Hill College, and I was playing soccer there. The fall of 2017 was my senior year, and in total that was so I went to school for 4 years and then an extra semester, so that 17 fall was my extra semester, and I got my degree in December. And as I said before, my next aim was to try and play soccer at the professional level. And I can wholeheartedly admit to you right now, looking back, that I had absolutely not a clue how to do that. And as the year was wrapping up, the year of 2017 was wrapping up, I started to reach out to some coaches in the United States and maybe also abroad as well, and got pretty much nothing for a response because, like I said, I didn't know how to do it. I didn't know how to navigate that landscape. And not to mention, I didn't have a huge resume to get me in the door. I went to a Division II college. I wasn't like an All-American. Didn't make a big name for myself, so I didn't have that sort of clout to be able to get me into the room to try out for teams. I probably got maybe a handful, and I say a handful, that may be an exaggeration, of emails back saying, okay, you can come to our open tryout, you can come to our open trial, which is, you pay a couple $100 and you get a weekend of training with the team. And I just graduated college and didn't really have the funds to go and do a bunch of things like that. And not to mention, from my experience in just college events as well, and from what I had heard about professional teams holding open trials like that, 99% of the time they're not really looking for a player to bring into their team. If somebody happens to come and they're absolutely wowed and they're dazzled, then yeah, you might get lucky and be offered a contract. But the majority of the time, when those events are put on, the team is already set, or there's a separate event for the players who are being seriously considered for the contracts. Invite-only combines, invite-only events, and specific trials with groups of players. Those are really where you're going to have more luck, at least with teams in America, finding an opportunity to play. I did do one or two events which were the more touted events, as you go and you play in front of scouts, and the soccer visas, the pro soccer combines of the world. There's a number of other companies who do this. The advertisement being, you come, pay money as well, and you will get an opportunity to play in front of these scouts, and however many players are there, maybe a couple get picked, and maybe they go overseas, maybe they go domestically. It's kind of just the level of the talent that's there. The coaches like what they see, that type of thing. Nothing really came of any of those. It was a good experience, I would say, because it gave me my first real taste of what some of the other players who had the same aspirations as me, what level they were at, and could I hang at that level. And I'll be honest and say there were definitely players that I felt like were better than me, were at a higher level than me. And there were a lot of players that I felt that I either meshed with and kind of fit in, or were better than. And so that was that initial phase of me trying to figure out what my next step was. That probably took me into the remainder of December and January, where I just was, okay, I've graduated college, I'm going to go play, I'm going to go ball. And then I quickly realized, okay, there's a lot more to it than that, and there's nobody that's going to come knocking on your door to give you an opportunity. And so I thought, okay, why don't I pursue another passion that I love, which is coaching, and let that be the funding source for me to continue to pursue my dream. I managed to land an opportunity with a club called Montgomery United. I got pretty lucky because a former head coach of mine at the college level was a coach there, and while I was in college, he gave me an opportunity to come and work with, they had a really, I can't remember what it was called now, but it was basically like 5 and 6 year olds. They had a little kind of like Soccer Tots program, and while I was a senior, maybe a junior and a senior, I can't remember how long I did it for, I would come once or twice a week and just help out. Didn't even get paid for it or anything like that, but it was a chance for me to kind of get my foot in the door and start working with a club. And that was the club that gave me an opportunity to come and coach. I probably started with them in January of 2018, and that was what I was hoping was going to be, as I said, my funding source for me to pursue my dream, which was playing professionally, wherever that may be. then I sat down and had a conversation about how much I was going to be getting paid to work for this club. And I quickly realized, okay, that's not going to be enough to support my dream, let alone consistently make my rent payments and food payments every month. So I got to figure out another option on top of that. And I had been training with my college team because I wanted to stay fit, I wanted to stay sharp, and while I was waiting for my next opportunity, I wanted to make sure that I was ready if that was ever to come. So while I started training with them, my coach and I had sort of been talking, and the idea had been brought up, well, what if I joined the staff? So I did that. I joined the staff at Chestnut Hill, and I became the assistant there probably around February, March. And then I'm like, okay, now I have 2 coaching gigs. Hopefully this can be enough for me to, have my life just be all soccer. I can be training, I can be playing, and I can be coaching, and I can really devote myself to this game and fully immerse myself in it. Then I had a conversation with my head coach, and we talked about what the number would be that I would be getting paid there. I was like, okay, we're kind of back in the same boat. And so this was one of the times when I had to go out and I had to get really a 9-to-5 type job, a job that was going to support me financially to keep doing what I love, but it wasn't really going to be in and around what I really loved. It wasn't going to be soccer related. So I've worked at a lot of jobs in my life, a lot of different things, and some of them have been weird. This might be the weirdest one that I ever did, and I worked at a furniture store in the King of Prussia Mall in Pennsylvania, which for those of you who know is an enormous mall. I worked for a fairly high-end furniture store called Ballard Designs, and I worked in the stock room. So basically my job was I would sit in the back, and I had a headset on, and customers would come in who had ordered their furniture online and it had been shipped to the store. I would get a message when the customer came in. Somebody in the front would message back to me, hey, this person's here, they want to pick up this item. I would go, and we had this big storage room in the back, and I would go find the item, get it down, put it on the dolly, and carry it out to the customer. I would also do a number of different other things in the stock room. There were some days where the trucks would come in delivering the furniture, so I'd have to be there at like 6-7 o'clock in the morning to unload the truck, put it all into the stock room. And so I did that for a couple months, where I would, most days, sometimes weekends as well, I would be working at this furniture store, and then at night I would go and I would train. If that was a night that I had free to do that, I would coach for the college. They had a couple nights a week that they would play in the spring, or I would go coach one of my teams at Montgomery United. And it was difficult, and there were times where I felt like, am I still really on a path that I'm ever going to get to being able to play again? I felt like I had detoured so far away from what I initially set out to do when I had that degree and I left Chestnut Hill, was, can I find an opportunity to play? And what I hope that I can shed some light on for all of you is that you might not have that opportunity right when you want it, but you have to be ready and able the moment that it comes up, and you really never know when that's going to come up. So that means not just ready and able from a playing perspective, are you fit, are you sharp, all those things obviously are important and probably paramount to anything else, but also financially as well. I knew that I had to be in a position where if anybody, and I mean anybody, called me and said, hey, I have this opportunity here, could I have gotten on a plane and gotten myself there? And so as I'm proceeding along, I'm like I said, I'm working at a furniture store and I'm coaching, and I had also started playing with a men's league team in a Philly league. Actually, the goalkeeper coach when I was in college played on a team and was like, hey, you want to come out and play with us? It's, we play every Sunday. And yeah, I joined them, and that was just getting me game minutes, which, as I'm sure many of you know, is vitally important. You can do all the training that you want on your own. You can do all the gym work that you want, but if you're not getting consistent time in 90-minute matches where you're getting that game level fitness and trying to stay match sharp, it's really going to be for nothing. So I needed to make sure that I had that element taken care of, so I started playing with this team and managed to also pick up a couple games with He played in an indoor league as well during the week, and so I got to pick up some games there. But I'll certainly say it was difficult. There were times where I had to go and get my training or my workout in early in the morning before I went to work, or maybe get a gym workout in late at night once I had gotten home from the training sessions that I coached, whether it be college or whether it be for the youth club that I was working for. I felt lucky in the sense that oftentimes I got the opportunity with when the college was training, I got to still jump in with them so I could maintain some sharpness there. But it was really I had to make sure that I was dedicating, carving out the time each and every day, each and every week, to ensure that I wasn't losing fitness and I was remaining sharp. Nobody was going to do it for me. I wasn't in a college environment anymore where you can sort of get away without doing the extra work, because you're in a regimented and structured program that's tailored to make sure that you continue to develop or you continue to maintain a level of fitness. And I'll say as well, I felt frustrated with that at times. Absolutely. I felt just worn thin. Not to mention all those, those weekly things that I was doing. I had to go and I was responsible for recruiting. For those of you who are familiar with the college soccer scene or are a college player, coach, whatever it may have you, you know that recruiting is one of the more integral aspects of what an assistant coach at the college level does. So there were weekends where I was going out to showcase events, and I was going to games and tournaments and things of that nature. And depending on the program that you're a part of, depending on the school that you coach for, some of that can be funded. A lot of it's going to come out of your own pocket, especially if you're in a small school like I was, and not the best funded school, and our recruiting budget was pretty minimal. So I was okay with that in the sense that I was still doing what I loved, and it was giving me experience. And plus I wanted to show to my head coach that I was working for that, I'm here to really provide value and really contribute to this program. I'm not simply here as a placeholder for myself. I'm not simply here to just hang out with the guys and kind of be here for a fifth year, senior year type thing. I genuinely cared about the program that I was a part of, and while yes, I did have my own personal ambitions and aspirations of going on to play professionally, that program meant a lot to me, and I wanted to ensure its success in any way that I could. So it was a lot of work that I was dedicating to this program, to the club that I was coaching for, and the job that I was doing. And there were times, like I said, where I felt as if maybe I'm getting too far off track. Maybe I'm pushing farther away from this goal of being a pro than actually moving closer to it. But the thing that I just tried to keep reminding myself was, one, financially, you have to put yourself in a better position to be able to do what you want to do. You have to have the funds to be able to go out at the drop of a hat and pursue an opportunity if it presents itself. So I was able to justify it that way as well. And the other way I was able to justify it was, if I'm putting myself in a coaching environment, I'm putting myself in the right conversations and in the right rooms, and I'm networking, connecting with the right people, right? I may start working with someone at a club or meet somebody at a recruiting event or at a camp that I'm working at, and this person may have had a playing career in the past or know someone who has a playing career or know coaches, or the list goes on and on of who someone may be connected with. So my thought process was, if I put myself in this role, in this position, I'm lending myself to my luck being on my side, that most likely I'll bump into somebody who might be able to help me. That's kind of the way I thought about it. And it definitely turned out that it helped me in a lot of ways similar to that. Maybe I didn't necessarily get a concrete, hey, I know this guy, he'll put you in a trial. But it gave me people to bounce ideas off of. It gave me people to get advice from on how they did it or what they did, which is just as integral and just as valuable as actually having a connection provides you with a concrete opportunity. The more that you can, which is what I talked about in episode 1 of this, the more that you can listen to people and listen to the advice that they have, listen to the stories that they have, how they did it, the more that can help you as you try and pave your own way in whatever facet you want to pursue in the soccer world, or any other world for that matter. I knew for a fact that if, when I graduated, I went and got a 9-to-5 and trained on my own, that I wouldn't have had those same opportunities to connect with people of a similar mindset and a similar passion to me. And I wouldn't have met a lot of the people that to this day I consider to be mentors, and that I consider to have helped me get to where I am, and who I know will continue to help me as I go, and a lot of them I talk to still on a consistent basis. So I feel like I've put myself in the right spaces that I need to move the needle closer to where I feel I'll best suit myself to be able to find an opportunity and pursue it. Like I said, I definitely doubted if I was always going the right direction, but more or less I knew, okay, this is what I need to be doing. Now it was, can I start to develop a plan and really formulate and strategize, what am I really going to do to make this happen? And the first kind of initial plan that I had was, I had a friend who I'd played with in community college. He was from Australia, and the way the Australian system works is there's the A-League, somewhat similar to the MLS in the way that it's structured. There's the A-League, and then there's the NPL 1, 2, some states, because when you get to it's the National Premier League, I think it's called in Australia. I may have just messed that up. But NPL 1, NPL 2, some states have NPL 3. Those are all state governed. The A-League is for the entire country. And then once you get below NPL 3, if you have it, or NPL 2, there's like State League 1, State League 2, all the way down. And I say it's similar to the MLS in the sense that the A-League is kind of its own separate entity that doesn't have a promotion relegation system. Obviously in the United States we have no sort of promotion relegation system at all throughout all levels, but once you got to the NPL levels and lower, you had the ability for promotion and relegation. And the research that I'd done and speaking to my friend quite a bit, pretty much anything in the NPL you would be paid. And also in some of the state leagues as well, like he played for, I think, a State League 3 team at the time. And he was getting some money each week to go and play. So in my head, I'm like, okay, I have an opportunity with him. I talked to him, I said, hey, would there be an opportunity for me to come down and trial with your team maybe and see if I could join? He was like, yeah, sure, absolutely. Let me talk to the coach. That should work. The other thing about Australia that is a positive attribute for a foreigner looking to pursue a career abroad is that as an American, at least I know for sure, as an American, you can apply for what's called a working holiday visa, which allows you a full year of residency in the country and you can work as well. There are some stipulations to the actual work that you do. For example, if you were to get a college degree from the United States and then you were going to go and pursue some sort of corporate job in Australia, that wouldn't be accepted because you would need more of a traditional standard work visa to actually pursue a job like that. You know, for example, if you majored in marketing and you want to go work for a marketing firm in Melbourne, that you wouldn't be able to use a working holiday visa for that, because the working holiday visa is more tailored towards things like bartending or waitressing, or it's kind of more of a, in the name exactly, it is more of an opportunity for a person to go and visit another country and work to support themselves, but it's not really a visa for you to go and work, if that makes sense. But for me, it was really kind of the perfect opportunity. I could go, I could work somewhere, and I could play as well for a year and figure it out. And so that was kind of my first, like, okay, now I have some semblance of a plan of what I'm going to do. And that was probably first really established for myself in the summer of 2018, maybe the fall. And so I kind of started looking at what it would cost to do all that, and I realized, yeah, I'm still not anywhere close to being able to book round-trip airfare. And luckily my friend was willing to put me up for a little while, but I didn't want to, just move down there and say, yeah, I'm moving in with you. And it's not like I already had a job lined up, and not to mention a working holiday visa also costs money to apply for and get. So there were a lot of things that still needed to be worked out, and I needed to get to a better place to be able to go and do that. And so I'm in the summer of 2018, and I'm still working at the furniture store. I'm working, for those of you who are familiar with college soccer, the summer is where a lot of different companies will host like ID events or different camps for high school age players. And it's usually a pretty hot time, I guess you could say, for college recruiting. So I did a number of camps over the summer, and all in preparation to, I was still on pace to come and coach with my alma mater in the fall. And that was going well. And my plan was that I would continue to coach at the club level during the fall. I wasn't going to be able to work at the furniture store once I was coaching more or less, I guess you could say, full time, once the college season is in full swing. The team's training every single day, playing on the weekends. It really wasn't going to work out. So my plan was to coach at the college level and continue to coach at the club level. And then hopefully November, December of 2018, I could go and I could trial with the team that my friend played for, and I could see if that was something that would be in the cards for me. Because obviously during the season I didn't really want to bail out on my commitment to be the assistant coach for my college. So if you'll recall, in the beginning of this episode, I was talking about how when I first graduated, my plan was, I'm going to go play. I'm going somewhere to go play. So I probably won't be living in Philadelphia anymore. And I kind of expressed that to the roommates that I was living with at the time, guys that I went to college with. I'll probably stay for the remainder of this semester, so I'll stay on the lease until May 2018 until I figure out where I'm going to go. But once the summer hits, once the fall hits, for sure, I'll be somewhere different. I'll be somewhere else. And so then I decide, okay, I'm going to start coaching, and I'm in this area for at least the foreseeable future, right? My plan altered a little bit, and I started coaching for the college, so I realized I'm still going to be in Philadelphia. And then I found out how much I was going to be making, and I was like, okay, well, that's not nearly enough for me to go out and get a place on my own. And then I kind of had to come and I had a conversation with my coach, and I was like, hey, this is how much I'm getting paid, and are you cool with me still living with the players that I'm coaching? I mean, obviously I still knew them or were very close friends with them as I just finished my playing career with them, but I wanted to make sure that that was okay with him, that I was still going to be able to live there. And he said that was fine. And I also had to speak with my roommates and say, hey guys, I know my plan was I wasn't going to be here, but is it cool if I come back? And when it was explained to them that there would be 6 people living in our house and that was rent divided by 6, they pretty easily and pretty happily agreed to have me back. But the big one was they had went and found a different guy from the team to move in and take my spot on the lease in my room, and I had to go and talk to him and be like, hey, I'm back now, and is it cool, I'll sleep on your floor, like I'll put the mattress on the floor, like I'll do whatever, you can have my bed and I'll figure something out, but can I just still stay in the room until I figure something out? And luckily, he's one of my best friends and still is to this day, and was completely okay with it. And so now we're in fall of 2018, and I am living in a small room for sure, and I'm sleeping on a futon. So I have, and I still have it in my house to this day. I have this black futon, and every day when I woke up in the morning, I would flip it up, and so it would back in the couch position, so we could have a little bit more room in the bedroom. And then every night I would fold it back down and sleep on it, and I had a little mattress pad on top of it, so it was somewhat comfortable. But I know whenever guys would come over, people would be over, they'd be like, you sleep on that? Like, how do you do that? Like, I couldn't do that. I don't understand how you do it. And I was just kind of like, I didn't really think much of it, I just knew that this was what I had to do. This is a sacrifice that I had to make at this time to still put myself in the position that I wanted to be later on down the road. So and too, like I said, I got really lucky that I lived with great people, and while it was difficult at times to be in such a small, cramped space, I never really felt that it was a problem or that I was burdening other people, and it was honestly a really positive experience. And certainly the financial aspect of being able to save some money on rent and utilities and stuff like that definitely helped me out majorly in the long run. So we're in 2018, we're in the fall of 2018, and this is why I said before how imperative I think it is to make sure that you're putting yourself in environments where you're having the right conversations with the right types of people. I was coaching, as I said, for a club called Montgomery United, which is a smaller club, not necessarily like your town sort of rec club, but definitely on the smaller scale to the more elite youth clubs out there. And I met a really great coach who I still speak with to this day. His name's Wendell, and he was leaving the club that summer, and for the following season was going to be joining a different club. We became fairly close, and he kind of helped me along, mentored me a little bit, and I had the opportunity that he sort of forged for me. When he went to Continental, he said, hey, do you want to come? Do you want me to put in a good word for you? And do you want to come and coach a team at a club called Continental? Sorry, I didn't describe that well before. There's a club in the Philadelphia region called Continental at the time. Now it's referred to as FC Delco. It was FC Delco prior, went to Continental for a little bit, now back to FC Delco. They were a pretty prestigious, and still are, a pretty prestigious club in the Philadelphia region, and had a program in the Development Academy. Obviously, that's has just recently been disbanded, unfortunately. But it was, for youth soccer purposes, it was a big-time opportunity for me. From a coaching level, I was going to get to work with a different caliber of player, and I was going to get to experience and be working side by side with other colleagues who coached at a high level. And once again, it puts me in more rooms with the right people to be talking to. And so I jumped at the opportunity and I said, yeah, absolutely. That would be great if you could set that up for me. And it, luckily for me, paid me a little bit more than Montgomery United did. And that kind of alleviated some of the stress that I had about making less money when I left the furniture store that I was working at. So I took the job at Continental, and I had a team that was old enough that I was still able to coach and do all my duties as a college coach, and then was able to come and coach my team at the club in late October, early November, when the U.S. youth club soccer scene really starts to kick into gear. That same connection, that same friend of mine that I had that got me the job at Continental, Wendell, also provided me with a really cool opportunity to come and work for him with a company that he was starting, or a company that was established, but he was sort of branching out a new, I guess you could say, franchise, and in the Philadelphia suburban region. There's a company called Dynasty Sports Academy. Effectively what it was sort of sport education or physical education for preschool aged kids. So what I would do a couple times a week, I think I worked at 2 different preschools, I would go and I would teach literally 2 to 4-year-olds how to play soccer. And it was, man, I don't even know how to describe it. It was one of the most interesting experiences that I've ever had. It was super challenging. I also had a ton of fun doing it, and I learned a lot. And really, I'm thankful for it because it allowed me to, once again, continue to put money in my pocket, which of course is paramount, but it also allowed me to still do something that I didn't feel like I was working a 9-to-5 job that I didn't like. And that was always something that I felt like I knew that I had to make money. I knew that I had to set myself up financially. But if I could do it in a way where I was having fun and I was, maybe teaching preschoolers soccer wasn't the number one thing on my list of what I wanted to do, but it certainly beat sitting at a desk 9 to 5, Monday through Friday. So it was really a win-win situation for me. And so I probably did that for months. I mean, I probably even did that into early 2019. So at the time, I'm coaching quite a bit. Players of literally all age groups. It was always something that kind of made me laugh, that I would, sometimes in a day, I would go from teaching a 2-year-old how to kick a ball, or, just how to run around, and I would leave, and later that day I would go and I would coach, 20, 21-year-olds, college kids, how to play soccer. And it was always interesting for me trying to balance those 2 different frame of minds that I had to be in order to coach each of those levels and give the best for each of those opportunities. So I'm coaching, and I'm still hopping into some training sessions when I can. I'm still playing on the weekends when I can. It's a little bit busier at this time, and luckily I have some free time during the days where I can train on my own. So I'm in a pretty good spot with my training and my overall fitness and my physical level. So I'm happy with that. And I also met a great connection while I was working over the summer, who, for that same club that I was going to, Continental, he was the under-19s DA coach. Like I said, at the time they had a DA program. And so I got to know him fairly well, and right before the kind of summer preseason kicked off for the college level and for also most DA teams when they head back, I saw him at a camp and I was like, hey man, I know I'm coaching and I know I'm going to be crazy busy, but would it be all right if, I was able to come and train with your DA guys? And obviously I'm a college graduate now and they're 19, 18-year-old kids. But my thought process was it'll give me a chance to get a run in maybe a couple times a week. I can stay sharp, and not to mention once I got in with this group, the DA is definitely a high level. And yes, these kids were younger than me, but there were some legitimate ballers in this team, and it wasn't a level where I felt like I'm not getting something out of it each and every time when I'm going to these sessions. So that was a great opportunity for me as well, for the times when I wasn't able to train with the college team, when I was strictly coaching or we were working on specific tactical elements that we really just needed the players who were there. That was a great opportunity for me to still remain sharp. So all those things were going pretty well. I had an amazing time that season getting the opportunity to coach on so many different levels, especially with the college season. We had a fun season, went to playoffs, and it was just a great experience for me. I got to learn so much. I got to be around guys every day that had a passion for the game, and I liked going to work every day, and that was amazing. As we progressed into the kind of off season of the college, and I ramped it up more with the club, that was a unique experience for me as well, because it was the first time that I ever had my own team that I was solely in charge of, and I relished in that opportunity. That was something so cool that it taught me so much, and I learned so much and did a lot of growth in terms of my coaching career in that period of time. And as we kind of progressed into the spring season, it's funny actually, my coach, the first day that we had a preseason friendly for Chestnut Hill in fall of 2018, the first friendly, he comes up to me while the guys are warming up and he says, "Hey, what would you think about, I have a friend of mine, he coaches at a Division III school around here, and he's looking for a new assistant for next season." At the time, I don't even think he said next season. He's like, he's looking for an assistant. I want to put you up for it. In my head, I'm thinking, like, we're literally day one of preseason. Like, I haven't even coached a game for you. Like, and you're already kicking me out. And so I laugh about that to this day with him. But his mindset for me as a coach and a player and a person was just always to try and push me and develop me as much as I could. And so we kind of put a pin in that and circled back around to that really come the end of the year and into the new year. I thought to myself, okay, this is an opportunity where I can hopefully make a bit more money to coach, hopefully have a bit more responsibility, and it's going to be a new challenge for me and a new opportunity, once again, pushing me out of my comfort zone where at my alma mater, I know everybody that's there, and it's really kind of like I'm coaching my friends, which has its benefits, certainly, but also has its drawbacks. When you are at the same level as your colleagues or your teammates or your friends, and then you have to kind of elevate yourself to this level of authority and be their boss, the dynamics of that become quite difficult. So I was like, all right, like, let's go, and I think this is the next step for me in my development as a coach and my development as a leader. So I go and I take that job, and once again, I'm still surprised to this day that I went into this thinking that it was going to be some outlandish pay increase, and I've been burned too many times to really still go into it with that naive mindset. But I go in and we kind of hash everything out, and I'm like, yeah, let's do it. And I take this new job at a university called Widener University, which I'm even wearing the shirt today, Widener Soccer. And so eventually we have the conversation about what I'm going to be compensated for this position. And, once again, I find myself back at square one where I've been so many times, where I'm like, this isn't going to be enough, because joining the staff, I had told the coach, I'm like, hey, listen, I love coaching. and I want to give my best in this position. I want to give my best in this role, but I also just want you to be aware and be cognizant of the fact that I'm still pursuing this playing career, and I'm trying to develop a plan to continue that. And while I am coaching right now, yes, this may not be what I'm doing in a year or two, because I may be putting kind of a pause on coaching to go and pursue playing. And he was on board with that, and he understood, and so I finally sort of started to really concretely formulate the plan for how I'm going to get to Australia. My plan was, okay, I'll coach this spring season, I'll take the summer essentially off and let some of the other assistant coaches handle the recruiting and camp duties over the summer. I'll go to Australia for my trial, and I'll stay there for about 2-3 weeks. I'll trial with the team. That's going to be at the tail end of their season, because the way that the Australian league system typically works is they start in roughly February, March, and they go till about early September. And then they take a break. Some teams do like a December kind of preseason camp, but then the season once again won't start back up until February. So I'm like, okay, this will work out perfectly. Coach in the spring, go in the summer to Australia, trial, hopefully do well, come back, coach again in the fall, and then go and actually play with the team once the season starts up. Because my guess was, if I'm going in July, August to trial, they're probably not in a position to sign me for the remainder of the season. So that's my plan, and now I have to really take the definitive steps to actually execute on that plan. And once I had that conversation about here's what you're going to get paid to come coach for Widener, I was like, dang, here we are again. I got to go get myself a job. And so once again, I'm back out on the job hunt. And this time when I was searching for a job, it was more so about, I just need to find the position that's going to compensate me the best to be able to set me up for whatever I need to do. And I know it's only going to be temporary. It's going to be for a couple months before I go to Australia. So even if I hate it, even if it's a 9-to-5 office gig, I've been blessed and lucky for the past pretty much year. I haven't really had to work at jobs that I hated or that I didn't like, barring the furniture store. I would say it wasn't really my favorite, but I got a job at an insurance company. I was pretty much a customer service representative, so I was handling inbound calls. So I'd do that 9 to 5, Monday, Friday. And this was a time where I really felt like this is more so a grind than I've ever experienced prior to this. I thought it was difficult when I was working a job and coaching and training and playing, but until I really got to this point, this is, I would say, March of 2019, I didn't know how difficult it could get. There were literally days where I would wake up in the morning, usually it was like 4:45 in the morning. I would have to drive to Widener, because they did morning sessions, 6 a.m. morning sessions, coach, get in the car, drive, sit in traffic for about an hour, drive to work the 9 to 5, get in the car right after, sit in traffic again, drive to the training ground where I coached my team, my club team, coach them for an hour and a half, and then come home. And maybe if I had a semblance of energy left to try and get a workout in, any chance that I could, I would try and hop in with the college in the morning so I could make sure I got something out of the day. And I didn't do that every day. That wasn't my schedule every day, but that was just sort of a microcosm of what that time looked like. And that was when I truly experienced what the grind is like. And it's definitely not glamorous. And it was, again, a time where mentally I'm like, I'm sitting in an office every day and I'm like, am I getting closer to this dream or am I getting farther away? Because I'm not out training right now. I'm not out doing something to better my abilities as a footballer, is kind of what's going through my head. And it wore on me. It wore on me a lot. I had to lean on the people that supported me and ask, like, am I doing the right thing? Is this, what am I doing? Is this right? Am I right to be doing this? And luckily I had a good enough support system to keep my head on straight and push me in the right directions. So fast forward kind of through that time where I'm juggling all these different things and I'm getting ready to hopefully go to Australia. I finally booked my ticket and I have everything set up and I'm speaking to my friend and everything's kind of coordinated and I have this, plan. I'm going to go to Australia for this set amount of time in July. And kind of just on a whim, it was really such a random occurrence for this to happen. On Instagram, I followed a number of those companies that I talked a little bit about in the beginning that run these combine events. And there was one that was posting about this club in Germany that they were signing a lot of players, specifically a lot of American players. And so I kind of just, I noticed it happening, I watched it unfolding, and it sort of struck my interest, and just on a whim, I didn't think anything would come of it. I messaged the club and said, hey, I see that you are signing a number of players. Here's my video, here's my CV. Was wondering if, you're still looking to sign players. And to my surprise, they got back to me and they said, yeah, we'd be interested to come and bring you in. And we talked about kind of some of the specifics of it. And they were like, yeah, we start up in July. And I'm like, okay, now I have a pretty concrete opportunity with this club in Germany that was just really falling into my lap. But I had this whole plan with Australia, what do I do? What's next? And this sort of ties into what I was speaking about in the beginning of the episode. It was, even Australia was, while still a difficult decision to make and something that was going to push me out of my comfort zone, I was going to visit a friend. The friend was setting up the trial, and I was very comfortable with him, and it was all still, while a unique experience and a new challenge, it was all still a little bit familiar, whereas Germany was a complete wild card and a complete unknown. And initially, your primal instinctual reaction is kind of like to push back and be like, I can't do that. But I had a couple conversations with some people, and especially the coach who was my mentor at the time. He was my coach at Chestnut Hill, and I was his assistant coach. And I remember he said to me, and I'll never forget it, he said, this is what you have been waiting for. This is the reason why you did everything that you did. This is what you've been working for. And sure, maybe it's not the perfect opportunity. Maybe it's not exactly what you envisioned or exactly what you planned for, but if you get to this point where you finally have the concrete opportunity in front of you and you turn it down, you'll never forgive yourself. You'll never live that down. And I remember that stuck with me, and I kind of realized, this is that same fear that I was having about when I was first transferring. It was that fear of, well, it's uncomfortable, but also on the other side of that this may be the start of my professional career. This may be the first step in a journey that really takes me to where I want to go. So I said, yeah. I reached out to the coach in Germany. I was like, yep, I'm in. I have this trial that I'm going to in Australia. I'd still like to go, and I'd like to see it through and see what happens with that, because you never know in this world of football. There's opportunities that come and go like that. So I wanted to see if Australia was maybe in the cards, and if Germany wasn't unfolding the way that I hoped it would, maybe when the German season ended, I could go to Australia and see what's there after if the trial had gone well, had gone successfully. So the coach that I was speaking to, he said, yeah, that's okay. We understand, that's an opportunity for you to take, and you'll still be remaining fit, so we know when you come in with us that you'll be ready to go. So I'm like, okay. And I finished out the remainder of my work at the insurance company. I remember I put my 2 weeks in, and that was an incredible feeling, knowing like, okay, I'm putting my 2 weeks in to go and really get after this dream. And it kind of worked out with the college that I was coaching at as well, because the head coach got another job offer for actually something that wasn't even coaching. He got another offer and he took that in May. So I didn't really still have that obligation to the college that I was coaching for Widener. And it kind of was just like everything was lining up and the stars were aligning. It was fate, so to speak, that this was what was meant for me to do, and this is where I was supposed to go. This is the next step for me. So that brings me to the conclusion of the stateside part of it. And I know I've already been talking for quite a long time. So what I'd like to do is kind of put a pin in it there, and sort of to be continued with once I actually get overseas and talk to you about what that looked like and what happened and some of the stories that I have from when I really traveled all around the world for a little bit there. If you listened to this episode or you watched it all the way through, I would really love to hear your feedback. If you're on YouTube, definitely drop me a comment. If you are, for those of you who now see, we are on Apple Podcasts as well as Spotify. So those are really the three places where you can consume the podcast right now. Whatever platform that you're using, I would love to hear what you think. If you want to message me directly, you can reach out to me through Instagram. My Instagram handle is Brendan_Griffiths10. Follow me on there and shoot me a direct message as to what you thought of the podcast, if you have any thoughts. And I'll also put that information as well as the link to episode 1 in the description of this. So I would encourage you to check that out if you haven't already. Lastly, let me just thank you once again for following along thus far in my journey. I hope to see you again for next week's episode as I talk to you about what it was like going overseas and what it was like being in Germany. And I'll talk to all of you guys soon.